Ladies and gentlemen in the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL Show. We are now in our panel era. Excited to be here. Got Andrew here. We're going to have Shylo from Elk Finance joining us just a little bit. Here to talk about news and DeFi, give you some alpha, give you some takes, and we'll address a great question in our call for help section this week from one of our members. Andrew, how are you doing today?
Great.
Excellent. I was going to hit, because you hit me with a random open for beard oil 2 weeks ago. I wanted to talk about a win that I recently had. Many of you know that I'm a big crafty tinkerer. I like building and making things. And one thing I've been looking to make is, t-shirts and stickers. In order to do that, I need a good printer. And I recently found, and I don't know if there are these around you, Andrew, but there are a lot of businesses that are buying returns from like eBay and, discontinued items and stuff like that. And they're selling them in these brick and mortar thrift stores. They're not just called like Goodwill or anything like that. They're actually like some type of, they have interesting names. Like there's one here in my area called Ninja Warehouse, or one called Eco Thrift, that type of thing. But, I walked into the Eco Thrift. It's next door, a place where I have to go get, cat food for my army of cats that I have here in my house. And they happen to have an Epson printer. Epsons are very good for this purpose. And they had one that I've been looking at, well, in the series I've been looking at, and it just said as is, and it said it was tested, it holds a Wi-Fi connection, it turns on, and it prints out the status page. The only thing it doesn't do, it's not discoverable, meaning the Bluetooth doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, how much is it? Because they have like little codes on how much it was. And the code said $19.94. And I'm like, what? Like I even looked at the tank. Tank's never been used. So it's just like a return that somebody wanted to give. So it's like a $400 printer. And I got it for $20. So that's a W right there. That's a dub.
Nice. I can't say that I've been in a thrift store in the last 10 years. I generally don't go shopping. I just have everything delivered.
Fair enough.
I will say though that back in college, I dumpster dove.
Did you? Interesting.
Yeah. I got things like printers, not really printers, but oftentimes like shredders, sometimes like even actually repairable safes. Out of like, the dumpster for Staples.
That's interesting.
And then I would like turn around and flip that on eBay. So yeah, man. One man's trash, right?
Exactly. Another man's treasure. And whoever didn't want this printer, thank you very much. It's going to go to good use for Beacon stickers and Beacon merch. If you guys met me at Denver, I had quite a bit of stickers and stuff to give out. I love making that kind of stuff. I love making, and they're going to be 10 times better with this new printer. So super excited about that. I don't have to worry about stupid Hewlett Packard Instant Ink, paying a subscription to that. These Super Tank inks are vivid and they work well. And I'm really excited to give that benefit to you all. And speaking of benefit to you all, please, if you have a second, join our free group over at TVL. School.com/beacon, skol.beacon. Join us for free. It's our free group. Learn from the best in the business on how to become a great DeFi investor. We'll go ahead and move into to the market real quick before we run into the news. And right now these are 7-day looks, but we're hovering around good spots. I think we're not in the 50s. People aren't running for the hills. Inflows are coming back into Bitcoin ETFs. I think this is a good starting place, in my opinion, especially after the Fed news from last week. And there's a lot of things on the horizon, which is what we're going to cover today in today's show. So if you haven't looked at some of these things we're going to talk about, we've talked about them sparingly. Well, I wouldn't say sparingly. We've talked about them regularly, but things are getting more interesting. And when I say that, Andrew, I'm a big Cosmos fan. I have a lot of bags in the Cosmos ecosystem of blockchains. And it all started to what we've been covering. We covered ordinals, BRC20. We've had MotoSwap on one of our, it's a layer 1 native DEX on Bitcoin. And then we've talked about runes. We talked about that 2 weeks ago at the halving. So we're looking at, some interesting projects that are going to possibly bring attention to Bitcoin and, Bitcoin holders. But what about DeFi and Bitcoin? Unfortunately, they have a long hill to climb from that standpoint for ordinals and runes. But there have been multiple projects trying to spin up these EVM style Bitcoin L2s. You have Stacks, you have Merlin, you have Babylon, you have a bunch of other ones that are coming about that are, lesser known. But now, and we talked about it. Andrew, you even kind of thought that BRC20 was a bit of a house of cards, which in a way it is because they have their linchpins, right? They're not fully decentralized. They're all ad hoc, with centralized indexers. But then I guess the day before, last Tuesday, friend of the channel, Sunny Agarwal, who is the one of the co-founders of Osmosis, we've had him on for a call before, posted this. Osmosis will become a Bitcoin L2. Osmosis being the largest DEX app chain in the entire Cosmos ecosystem. If you want to go between any coin that's in Cosmos, it'll go through Osmosis at one point. So for him to make this very interesting statement, it made me wonder, what on earth are they cooking at Osmosis? Because it's one thing if there's a smaller team, in testnet looking to bring forward, an L2, with, again, not native Bitcoin, but wrapped Bitcoin assets. But for a project with the lendiness and the size of Osmosis to come forward and say they're going to become a Bitcoin L2 as a blockchain in Cosmos, I was like, what is going on here? So, thanks to Onchain with Laura Shin, we learn a little bit more about what this is going to be. So, Osmosis next month in June.
Yeah, why? Tell me why. There's a lot of why questions here.
Yeah, right. So, and that's a really interesting part, right? The why. Honestly, I think a lot of this is narrative, right? Because there's going to be more people, normie people, coming into the system, institutions, people who are watching the news, hearing about Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin, and wondering what they can do with it. Obviously not, we all love ETH, right? We all believe, at least most of us here on the team believe in the flippening. Andrew's even on record as of the last thing he put out, he's not really DCing into Bitcoin right now. But for those who are buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin, are looking for something to do with their Bitcoin, this could be the DeFi services that you may have been looking for. So as of next month, they're going to have what's called alloyed Bitcoin, which is a derivative. It is still a wrapped asset, but it's going to be a tradable asset with deep liquidity on Osmosis. That's the difference here, I think. And it is a derivative of all types of different Bitcoin that is on Cosmos. So there's Nomic, which is NBTC. They have a very deep supply of Bitcoin. I believe Axelar has a version of wrapped Bitcoin. And there's a couple other Bitcoin projects that are also on Cosmos, also with the ability to wrap Bitcoin and bring them on chain. So it is tied to native Bitcoin. So what they're looking to do here is use it to secure the blockchain. So by securing the blockchain, you will receive staking rewards by staking your wrapped Bitcoin, being a part of their consensus model. I don't know if there's any project out there that is doing this to this scale. Obviously, some of the layer 2s are going to be doing this as well. By staking your Bitcoin, I don't think you actually earn Bitcoin, but you're actually going to earn Osmo. So again, I think they're just looking to gain attention by playing to a narrative. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, because I do think there are a lot of people who are looking to figure out what to do with their Bitcoin. It's one thing to wrap your Bitcoin, then drop it into an AMM and borrow stablecoins and farm it. But if you can actually take native Bitcoin and just stake it with a validator, a really good validator, and earn Osmo rewards over time, which could lead you to more airdrops and stuff like that. Yeah, it's more of just the encouragement of playing to the Bitcoin maxis, that there is more that you can do with your crypto that you are holding, which honestly is the whole point of DeFi, right? Making your Bitcoin or whatever asset that you hold, so just holding it and waiting for it to appreciate or depreciate, you can actually make it work for you, earn additional income on the side. So Andrew, I want to get your thought on that just from Osmosis's announcement.
I think it's silly, but what I think doesn't really matter.
There will be others that I think, and to be fair, I don't think that the staking reward APY is going to be huge. You know, we talked about Athena on ETH Mainnet, which is Arthur Hayes' project from Dragonfly, where they will actually be adding BTC as a collateral asset for backing, so that they'll actually be also shorting BTC futures as well as ETH to help, you know, keep the rather large yield that you're getting from minting USDE, which is their stablecoin. So for me, I look at it as finding a good way to diversify the bag, because if they can make it very frictionless to onboard native BTC into Cosmos, into Osmosis, which they're doing very well with their staking portal now. If they can literally make it so it's just a one-click bridge between you connect your BC1Q address or wallet into Osmosis portal, where it will take your money, your BTC, wrap it, and then stake it into their system automatically, and then you just start earning rewards. I think that's a really big W for Osmosis, because you and I both know, Andrew, Bitcoin is one of the biggest pains in the assets to onboard in a DeFi. And if,
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and if tons of people are going to be wanting to earn yield on this, yeah, I know you said it doesn't really matter what you think. It doesn't really matter what I think either. It's all a matter of what people are going to think. Now, this is actually in governance proposals right now. Actually, this is a fantastic point from Susan. Thank you very much for this point. Because of the halvening, this might provide another path to security of keeping the chain relevant. That's actually a very interesting take. I like that analysis. You know, with rewards becoming less and less over the years, having an additional mechanic to earn on your Bitcoin is going to be key. Whether you're a miner or not. Actually, if you're a miner, this is a fantastic way to get additional yield on your Bitcoin that you earn, honestly. So Osmosis comes out with this. This is happening in June. Wanted to bring this one up, Andrew, because you have a personal tie to this project. Friends from ETH Denver, ZKM.
Oh yeah.
So they have security.
They're getting more money. I love that for them.
I know, I love that for them, because they're getting P2, which is the old Polygon Ventures, Metis, Crypto.com, and who was the other one? Did I say Crypto.com? And OKX, of course. This is the one that's leading the big part of it. Now, the interesting part about this, Andrew, is that with that money, obviously they're going to use it for whatever, but it paves the way for their next step. They're coming out with their own Bitcoin layer 2 using entangled rollup technology. And I wanted to get your take on what entangled rollups are, because I frankly don't remember. But I found the idea of entangled rollups based on your trip to their hacker house very interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if they've changed it to like work with Bitcoin, but generally the idea is that really something can kind of simultaneously exist on different rollups as long as it's actually on an L1. Okay. So this enables it's really just if you can tie the bridge into the minting and burning functions of the chain itself, you don't actually need a bridge anymore.
Oh, because it's going to be in the entangled rollup.
So just think of like quantum entanglement as the analogy here. Just the idea that something can exist or affect things across any distance because of its intrinsic relationship.
Okay.
So
I
don't know. I haven't read this thread yet. But they've got some really cool ideas, and I'm really excited to see what they do.
Right. So, back on what we were talking about last week with, Bitcoin L2s being somewhat silly. Now that you know this news along with Osmosis, bit more bullish on the concept?
Never said I wasn't bullish on the concept. So let me be clear. It is silly. I think it's silly. I don't think there's a great reason to be building DeFi on top of Bitcoin. But just because there isn't a good technical reason doesn't mean that there isn't a good speculative reason.
Fair enough. And speaking of that, I did want to bring in our panel guest for this week. We've got the fantastic Shylo from Elk Finance and Project Ralph. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you as well.
I did promise you I had a special hat for you today, so I'm going to put it on for you because I definitely want to put this on so we can talk about it. Oh no, my green screen is eating up my taco.
Oh yeah.
That's a shame.
Boy, does that mean like the lettuce is molding?
The lettuce is moldy and is blending into the background. But I definitely wanted to talk about this with you, sir, because you also spent a lot of time with the ZKM team in East Denver. So just wanted to kind of get a quick temperature check with you on what do you think about Bitcoin L2s and how do you think about ZKM, rowing in this direction?
I think sometimes we get caught up in the immediacy of the tech, and it's like, well, there isn't a practical reason for this at the moment, but I wonder what will come from it. I guess kind of analogous to things we learned while going to space that we didn't know that have applications at home, or the Large Hadron Collider. Practical applications that involved radical cancer treatment for shooting particles through people's bodies to a specific targeted area. Like, it's almost sometimes more difficult to see what that might offer. And I'm hoping, and I am a forever hopeful techno-optimist, that maybe some of these L2s on BTC, however semi-laborious they may seem, hopefully lead to some insights that allow, I don't know, maybe some greater efficiency on the L1, or, I don't know. It's hard to say what that could be, but I'm hopeful that something like that takes place. I don't know what your guys' thought on that is.
Well, I think these are PvE games, right? And I think any way that we can build DeFi TVL to make it not necessarily relevant, I guess the word is relevant, but just provide utility. I think there's an image makeover that DeFi needs to continuously keep up. That helps drive it away from the narrative of monkey pictures and things like that.
Yes, 100%.
So by framing this in a way, and before you came on, we were talking about Osmosis, talking about them wanting to become a Bitcoin L2. And if they can find a way to make it so frictionless, specifically with, wallets and getting in to take, wrapped Bitcoin through either Nomic or even their native wrapped Bitcoin, and then stake it into their service to earn Osmo. That's a really novel concept that's frictionless and makes people understand that they can do more with their Bitcoin than just hold it and it just looks like something that's on their computer screen, right? There's something to that. So I do think with ZKM going this route, I think is it playing up to VC money? I don't know. Could there be more to it than that? Yes, I think there's specific utility, but I do think it's more about getting more eyes, into the space, new ways to innovate payment transactions, things like this. I think technology at this level, at least from a ZK perspective, will build in both a privacy and payment route that I'm excited to see.
And I guess it depends too, like, because I'm not familiar with the nitty gritty technical details, but like, how decentralized is that going to be? Like, I mean, it's great to say that we're capturing the security, from Bitcoin directly by having transactions large posted on the chain, whether that's in message format or not. Well, I mean, obviously it is to do with messages, but I don't know, at least from my perspective, how at the same time that will increase security if it is just messages. Because, if you look at the way L2s on Ethereum behave, there's a wide variety of options for securing your assets and posting those transactions as a one-to-one. Where you can't mirror it the same on Bitcoin L1, I don't think, right? Other than in a message format. So I guess it just depends on how that's, technically implemented too.
I think honestly what it is just using not necessarily if they use the layer 1, it's just really just for the settlement of Bitcoin balances, because you can't use native Bitcoin on there anyway, right? So you have to deposit and then, use a wrapped or derivative version of Bitcoin the entire way through. So
yes,
honestly, it's really just abstracting and just giving you something to do with your Bitcoin. Because one thing we talked about earlier with, Andrew and I talked about is that Bitcoin is unbelievably difficult to onboard in a DeFi. Yeah. There's real barriers, there that just don't make it very easy. So if there's someone, even if these L2s don't provide that onboarding, but just provide you some other things you can do with it that give you a little bit more peace of mind. Yeah, maybe it's all smoke and mirrors, but it's all interesting, all the same. So for Osmosis to step up and say they're going to be a Bitcoin L2 with their lendiness, their scale, and now ZKM saying this, definitely is an interesting turn. We'll come to the last part of this, and Andrew, this actually kind of deals with your recent batch of theses, and this is also with you, Shylo, with what you guys do with Elk Finance. I guess on the 1st, so last Wednesday, Bob, Build on Bitcoin, went live. This is their mainnet. They're an L2. Difference with them, they're an OP super chain. So they have I guess they have 40 projects that are in there, 300 mil in TVL, and they are points farming. So anybody who's watching this, there's now season 2 for Bob. If you want to get in, again, could be a full smoke and mirrors show, but this, at least for you guys at Elk, this is an interesting way to get into, at least introduce users to look at an easier way to onboard some BTC derivative into the system.
Yeah, for sure.
Andrew, go ahead. I just wanted to see, now with the, obviously with the super chain, because Bob is not only just OP super chain member, they're backed by Castle Island and Coinbase Ventures.
I'm still kind of thinking about Large Hadron Colliders. You made experimenting with Bitcoin L2s sound like way more important than I would have, Shylo.
Yeah, I know it times.
They're bringing Bitcoin L2s into the super chain. Is that what I'm hearing, Chris?
Yeah, the mainnet for Bob is live as of last Wednesday. So now you have, they're looking to build a Bitcoin-driven DeFi summer. So
this is just making me feel like a boomer, like I'm a DeFi boomer.
Oh wow!
look, it's fine if this is what the VCs want to spend money on. If this is what everybody's marketing department thinks is a good idea, far be it for me to complain. But this really seems incredibly silly. Like, doing things with Bitcoin, like, that's not what Bitcoin's for. It's not what it was designed to do. It's silly. It makes me feel like I'm living in Bizarro world. But here's the thing. That just makes me think I'm probably just like, I'm missing something. Clearly I'm missing something. The problem's probably me.
So interestingly enough, I was looking while you're talking about that. I was learning, like, what are the next phases of this project? So Satoshi VM, another important project in this realm, along with BitVM, in terms of creating, how would you even incorporate proof of work into this, right? So I guess Bob has integration of proof of work security and transaction settling on both Bitcoin and Ethereum through BitVM. I guess that's the answer we were looking for, Shylo, because I'm just like, cool.
Yeah,
let me do a Uniswap V3 position on this or something like that. Something I can relate to. Let me do a DN 404. There you go. Project Ralph. Next target, Bob.
Man, I don't know.
You're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't even like, I feel like I'm always catching up and I never fully understand something, like, or what can be done with it as we go. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say no. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah, we're launching our DN404s on Project Ralph on Avalanche next.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about
Bob. Let's do a quick segue here. Again, let's do a couple of quick segues before we get to the next section. Again, wanted to thank Shylo from Project Ralph and Elk Finance from being here. Shylo, go ahead and tell us a little bit about Project Ralph real quick while I load up the next screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So Project Ralph is basically a fun meme project that showcases the power of ElkNet, which is Elk Finance's kind of back-end infrastructure for cross-chain messaging. So basically showing we can do anything with any token or any message, right? So we've taken some of the most recent standards, the BRC20, the inscription, wrapped it in a DN404. Yep, we can bridge that too. So it's kind of a little bit of a fun project with some giveaways and some memes and some contests. We've got lots of stuff ongoing where you can, claim some PR, which is our token, on Base and Avalanche. The whitelisting is still open for the next chain, which I mentioned is Avalanche. So I can post that link as well. But yeah, we're going to be at ETH Berlin. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, at the end of May here, and handing out some airdrops in person as well. So look out for us there. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah. Got some alpha here for you guys. As a disclosure, I was an original investor in Project Ralph on Base on there. So, and through our meeting at ETH Denver. So yeah, I'm still LP in that. Don't worry.
That's perfect.
I'm still providing liquidity for that. So if you guys are looking to get in on an interesting experiment with Project Ralph, they're looking to obviously with Elk Finance, bridge as a service, be able to bring that to multiple chains. Avalanche is next. So was that via a vote, or did you guys just make an executive decision on to go to Avalanche next?
Yeah, we got some feedback, and then we also looked at where there was some volume around meme tokens, and also looked at stability for the next indexer and for all of that, and we kind of settled on Avalanche with a combination of everything. So
very nice. Well, you started off on Base, and that leads me to the next part of the news. Base is now kicking off on-chain summer 2.0. I want to ask real quick, Shylo, how was the experience of developing on Base as a blockchain?
Yeah, it was fine. It was quite easy. I mean, yes, there was a few gas spikes, throughout. But I think it's been relatively stable. It's been an easy chain to onboard. Technically, it's the same as Optimism under the hood. So yeah, it was pretty easy, pretty frictionless, honestly, and we chose it. That's the reason. One of the reasons I think that plus good marketing is that with the meme boom on base, right? It's because it's quite easy and quite cheap. So yeah, I have no complaints at all. I think it's a great chain for
Yeah, if they can
an
just get their execution fees back to Hoopy under control, I think we'll be
yeah.
good.
Are they high again right now?
They're just, the average is just higher than most places,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, right? Not
Yeah.
everyone can be arbiter, but that's a joke, because we make the joke that not everyone can be base, because it's very easy to recommend base to most people, because obviously with the behind it. On-chain summer, they're kicking this off again for base. They're for the next 3 months. Builders, creators, artists, they're all going to get their part in 600 ETH worth of incentives over the next 3 months. So if you are looking to build on base, something that they have a very good environment for, go there. Obviously, if you're looking for new projects to look into base. I'd like to see them index some of these projects as they get bigger. They have good marketing, but would love to see something like a maybe they're doing that. They did that last year, obviously, when they launched with their first on-chain summer. They featured a different project every day, but base has grown so much, right, Andrew, over the last 6 months. I'd love to see a reintroduction to both big projects and small that are on base.
Oh boy, what's the question, Chris?
Oh, just asking your thoughts on base trying to kickstart another on-chain summer on their chain to bring even more TVL over. I know this plays into your on-chain rotation narrative that you've been talking about for quite some time. So obviously tailwinds here with stuff like this, right?
Sure. Well, I think the main thesis for base, and what I've talked about with my theory of on-chain rotation, is about predicting where the inflows are likely to come from. And the idea that as retail interest peaks up, Coinbase's position as the largest US DEX will lead to a high likelihood of retail inflows onto base. So what they seem to be doing here is, yeah, they may be using that like branding. I think there was one DeFi summer, and that'll probably never quite happen again. Everything else is going to be a little bit different. But they're doing something that has been kind of a theme that we've seen over the last year, which is instead of directly pumping incentives to users, we're pumping incentives to devs, which I think is great if we want to have new and interesting things built. The ecosystems are competing for brain share directly. So I'm really happy to see that, and I think it's important for any ecosystem that wants to be successful to be investing in the builders. I know that was something that we paid a lot of attention to at ETH Denver, because there's so many like competing ZK rollup projects, even ZK L1, many other things. But ultimately, unless builders want to build there, or builders are being compensated to build there, nothing's going to happen. So you can just easily see what people are doing. So I think what we'll have to see is not whether it's like a cool slogan that they have, but whether or not the devs are interested in participating. If the devs are interested in participating, then it's probably going to be successful.
Whether it's a baseless idea or not.
Yeah. A man who loves puns. I love it.
A man of culture, I see.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to share with you guys, thank you, Shylo, for doing so. He's got a form if you want to get on the whitelist for Project Ralph on Avalanche. We'll have that in the show notes, as well as the description for this video after it goes live. So again, thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here with us in our new panel era.
That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely. I was going to talk about the SEC for a second, but I was like, Andrew hates talking about the SEC. I don't blame him. So we're going to skip over that. Interesting move. This is as of 2 days ago from Consensus, the creators of the MetaMask wallet. Now, if you still use MetaMask, this is going to be an interesting innovation. And again, I don't know how they're going to make this happen, but they do have smart transactions coming to combat front-running on-chains that have an excessive amount of MEV. MEV being maximal extractable value, where, you can certainly have, bots and whatnot inside the layer and the execution layer before the transactions get finalized. MetaMask is creating a virtual mempool for anyone who's using their wallet to protect you, giving you in essence even lower gas fees by helping you, or rather help protecting you from front running. There are actual blockchains as well as other other protocols like Manifold and stuff like that that have been trying to do this for a while. So I want to get anybody's thoughts on how this would be interesting for anyone actually using MetaMask. I don't necessarily see Rabby or Rainbow or some of the other wallet creators out there using this mainly because of infrastructure. Obviously, MetaMask has Consensus, which has a tremendous amount of exposure to all the infrastructure they could want to create a mempool like this. But Shylo, I'll start with you. Any thoughts on how you feel about something to help mempools?
I mean, if it works, that's great. I guess my one concern is like MetaMask is then assuming your transaction before it reaches the RPC and sitting in the mempool, and then basically running all transactions at the same time. And I'm sure I don't know how you implement that. I'm sure they're not rolling it out everywhere on every chain. But like, how much of a delay does this introduce on a trade with let's say higher slippage? And yeah, I don't know the security wise if that poses a risk. I guess I don't know enough to comment on that piece, but just the fact that that's holding my transaction prior to it exiting the mempool. What is then done with that data that it's definitely collecting as it passes through an additional kind of server on the way through? And can that server be hung up and cause additional problems? I guess, I don't know. When I see some new stuff, I kind of worry, like, how can it break and make the user experience more difficult? And is it secure?
It's a great question. Andrew, your thoughts?
I don't know that I necessarily have the technical understanding to understand what's happening here.
They're just trying to help you specifically with MEV, just getting sandwiched, as well as one thing too is to optimize lost transactions.
What are they doing here that's better than solutions with flashbots? Would be my question. So I'm not sure what the differentiation is there.
No, that's a good question. I like that. I like that take. I mean,
it's certainly a problem, but I don't know, like, what is the aspect of the problem that hasn't been solved or that they're better able to address?
I think it's just including it at the wallet level, as opposed to being some type of middleman type of infrastructure where you layer. I don't know if you're actually layering risk here, because I think you're going to get that anyway. But I guess it's all a matter of how much you trust, the open source nature of Consensus and MetaMask, as opposed to going through, smart contracts.
Because I guess it is kind of an additional middleman, because the virtual mempool would obviously be for more than just you. right?
Yeah,
Like, are
yeah,
you
yeah.
aware? So,
Oh yeah, it's not a personal memo.
no,
That'd be silly. That'd be interesting, right? I'm like, how much does that cost?
like, yeah, exactly. But I mean, that wouldn't make any sense because you're just caching it by yourself and
Yep.
doing anything. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't fully understand how it works yet. But I just immediately always have concerns when you introduce something in between that.
Right, because is this a problem that really needed to be solved? I guess is probably the real question, right? Is this a real problem that, you know, had to... Now, if this was for Solana, that'd be a different story. If you could reduce my failures on Solana by 50%, just tell me where to point my wallet, and I'll say okay. I'll test drive it, because that's. But this is a different story, I suppose.
Yeah, and like
All right.
when I'm using Remix or something to launch contracts, like how is this going to get in the way? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure.
Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't think I have. Oh, I don't have that in here. So, I'll do one thought-provoking thing before we move forward. And I thought I had the link here. I didn't. I apologize, guys. But it is for, and this is a super clickbait title, by the way. Next Tuesday, Alexei Pertsev, the Tornado Cash developer, gets his sentence. Now, this is like I said, a very clickbait title, right? This is the game-changing crypto judgment next week. I don't know if that's the case. He's looking at 5 years in prison. But for those who aren't aware of what a mixer is, it's just a privacy tool that you can use to essentially mask transaction activity online. If you are a privacy advocate, because the blockchain is not only immutable, it is public with, you know, in some cases there is some, you know, personal identifiable information to an entity of some sort. To distort that and obfuscate that, you can use one of these services for that. Unfortunately, it has been used for less desirable things. And the argument here is that just because that it exists, that is not the sole purpose of those things. So should you take down an entire service because of the bad actions of a few? Now, bad actions of a few is an interesting context here, because we're talking about whole sovereign nations and cyber attacking units. But again, super clickbaity title. Just wanted to get any thoughts, if anybody has any, on whether or not this really is a huge case with regards to privacy moving forward. I know that we all have interest in ZKs and, you know, preserving like anonymity or pseudonymity in DeFi. I personally have never used Tornado Cash. I don't recommend anybody else does.
Well, sure you'd say that now, Chris. Sure you'd say that now.
No, I really haven't, just to be transparent. I have not. I don't recommend anybody does. They are watching it. Please don't use it.
I don't know how I'm here. I was added here against my will. Anyway, I think this is potentially a big deal, if depending on what happens and what precedent is set, because our legal system here in the States and most of the Western world is very much hinges on precedent. So anything that addresses something new can influence every other similar case. I think the big issue here is implied liability for how other people use your stuff. And that is something that we've talked about with the printing press. We've talked about it with social media. We've talked about it regarding lots of different infrastructure things. So if we make a choice and say that, any dev that puts a smart contract out on a public blockchain is essentially culpable for any crime that someone commits using those contracts, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem for innovation in the US. I don't think we're going to see like a flight from the U.S. stop anytime soon, because it's already kind of happening. But yeah, this is potentially really important. And I mean, I don't really have too much else to say from that, because it's not really something I can control or have any impact on. So it's therefore I don't really worry about it. But yes, it's important. It's something to watch, because everyone who might get sued or might go to jail because of, precedent set from this case in the future, I'm sure is paying attention to it, or will eventually.
Sure.
What do you think, Shylo?
Yeah, I guess like it's one of those things. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not even American. I'm Canadian, so so I have even less legitimacy to be weighing in on it. But I mean, I think it's yes. I think when you create something, you can't be responsible for how people use it, and at the same time, it's like once you create something and you are aware of what it can do, you've also kind of inherited a responsibility to do a bare minimum to maybe at least check some boxes that it makes it maybe more difficult, or to say that you did something to kind of uh, you know deter dangerous or groups from using your product. Now, whether that's effective or not, I don't think is your responsibility, but I think it's more in how you handle it. So I don't know. I don't think you should be responsible for the crimes of the people. And just as a human, it might be good to slightly deter people that are doing really horrific things to not use your you know your contracts, like blacklisting, things like that. Small steps.
Right.
I don't know.
And I think you bring up a great point. And so does Susan. You can make the same argument about AI and other technologies that are breaking out today, because, that reminds me of a really important, and obviously they never went to court on it, but if you remember Tay.ai from Microsoft, it's like, yeah, this is so cool. You have your own virtual assistant. Let's turn it into a really terrible racist.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Did Microsoft know that? No.
No.
But at the same time, anyway, obviously slippery slope. Just kind of wanted to, I guess my point with this is,
it's logical fallacy, Chris.
Logical fallacy. I wanted to get people whose opinions I respect to talk about this, to help normalize, this type of thing, right? Yeah, I do hope that this goes in the favor, of the devs, because I do think this is something that, is an important service that, will be helpful for privacy in the future. What comes next, VPNs, that type of thing. Wanted to move to our what we've learned section real quick. This is really just going to be a very quick section before we go to call for help. And again, Shylo, thank you for being here with us today. So you mentioned when we had our Q&A, you can check that out on our YouTube coming soon, that you started out as an airdrop farmer when you were trying to get into DeFi, right? So interestingly enough, Layer 0 has caused a bit of a tiff with specifically their form for having people literally report if they are a Sybil. Not only did you have to do that, you have to do that within the next 14 days to either get 15% of your allocation or nothing. Now, some people may wonder, what does that even mean? What is Sybil farming? Sybil farming, and this became an issue, I think, with the Arbitrum airdrop from last year. You had some people making 50, 100, thousands of wallets to farm and try and gain as much airdrop token as possible. Yeah, and you think about it, you're like, wow, that's a huge undertaking. to be able to do that, build things for that. But there's a whole, I guess you could say almost a whole industry on that. So I think Wormhole was one who came out with a full, they had a full anti-Sybil just evaluation. And there were a lot of people that were regular people that should have gotten one that didn't get one because they were marked as Sybil. So I think they're really just ruffling feathers. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, if you're an airdrop farmer, you're spending your time to hopefully get an allocation for something. You're not owed shit from any of these protocols, just for using what they have. It's a nice bonus. But obviously, if you have thousands of wallets doing the same thing 3 times per day for months, don't get mad if they flag you as a Sybil. Very simple. Issues with this, of course, people talked about that they're using this data to possibly report that to other protocols who are doing airdrops. So you are a known Sybil. Obviously not financial advice. Do your own research. Just don't do it. Simple.
Yeah, Sybil advice.
Go ahead.
No, just saying it was a Sybil matter.
It's a Sybil matter. Go. Very nice. So good luck to all of you on your upcoming airdrops. There's a lot of farming out there. Obviously, we have Layer 0 modes live now, and there's obviously more things coming. Points and airdrops are here to stay, in my opinion. So we'll talk more about that as we move forward in these future episodes.
So they're asking people to self-report. That's interesting.
Isn't that interesting, though? I thought you might have something interesting to say about this, because I'm like,
I mean, didn't expect this. I don't know. Like, is it this like a idea that they can get people to be like, well, they might have already known, so I'm going to report myself and still get 15%. I don't know. I don't know if they explain somewhere in here why they're even doing this. But it's at the very least a little bit funny.
Yeah, it made me laugh when I saw it. Unfortunately, and not in a surprising move, and it's here in the agenda, but I don't have the article for it. Apparently, from Brian Pellegrino, who's been on a call with us, any Layer 0 employee who tries to claim the airdrop is going to be, they consider that a fireable offense. And that's not surprising, but still, like, the fact that you had to say that was also kind of funny. I'm like, I didn't really like the look of that when I saw that out there, but in any case.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky situation. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you're giving out free money that's yours, and it's like at the same time, like, okay, I get why you attach some strings to it, but I mean, how does that change airdrop culture going forward? And do these measures make any sense?
People are going to game the system, right? They're going to find a different way to game the system. And there's multiple ways. I'm not saying that. There's multiple ways to do that that I don't know anything about. But there are people way smarter than me that will find a way to game the system regardless.
Yeah, and maybe it's those low effort people that they're going after that putting that roadblock in the way might be enough. But if you know your way around smart contracts and are familiar with the ecosystem and heard of, any sort of have any sort of experience, you can probably get around that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what's next? Eyeball scanning?
Ooh, yeah.
It'll be slow from Andrew.
That's alpha right there, right? Eyeball scanning to prove a person.
Yeah, it was what was it? Sam Altman's thing, right? WorldCoin. Right?
WorldCoin, yep. Yeah, they have an OP chain coming.
That's the joke, sir. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That is the joke. When we talk about eyeballs, that is the joke. Yes. Yeah. We do know people that have done the eyeball scanning, so yeah.
So keep your eyes open, or in this case, closed.
I like that. Keep your eyes open or keep them wide shut. There you go. It'll be in the show notes. There's a tweet that was out. If you are a DBank user, apparently there are a list of addresses that are on the short list. It's a gigantic Google sheet that somebody extracted. I'll just put it in the show notes, but basically it doesn't mean anything in my opinion, but apparently people on this list are going to get a DBank airdrop. if you minted a DBank Web3 ID, that's probably the main mechanism of you definitely getting something. And of course, they could come out with nothing. But you know, people have airdrops and tokens for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I was too cheap and lazy to do that.
Well, there you go for Elk V4. There you go, new token.
Yeah,
there you go. We'll go ahead and move on to call for help. And what this is our weekly Q&A segment. If you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments. Reach out, you know, through all of our outlets, of course. If you like what you're seeing, please like this stream, subscribe, become a member, tell a friend. We're here to help normalize the conversation of DeFi here as part of Beacon and being the premium education brand in the space. And I would be remiss if, again, not to join our free group. If you want to learn from the best in the business, school.com/beacon at TVL, Total Value Locked. Join us there and join the hundreds that are along with you for the ride with some of the best in the business that have seen it all, as the three of us have since a long time ago. My goodness, when you say we were boomers, I think we are boomers, Andrew, because we've been in this space for so long. If you know what a syrup pool is, come join us at the OG table. If you're ready to deal with exit liquidity on a bridge, come sit with us at this table. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
DeFi boomers.
I know, DeFi boomers.
Sounds like a new podcast name.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
We should definitely jump on that. Somebody go buy that.
I don't know. I don't know, Chris. It's just a joke. We don't have to jump on it. Yeah,
nobody's gonna watch that because they're like, whatever. Just give me my NFT with my casino winnings, please. Thank you. So in today's segment, let's talk about. Can you give a deep dive on exit strategies, Chris? When do you know when it's time to get out of a position? All right. So, it's from Brian. Thank you, Brian, for the question. I told him about the idea of a yield devolving period, right? So he wanted me to kind of go into that. Ultimately, if you're looking to get out of position, entrance and exit strategies, of course, you know, if you're looking at the vantage point from, let's say, you know, Shylo's level, you never want to leave an LP, especially if it's on his platform. Stay in there forever, right? But if we're talking about exit strategies, there are a couple of factors, and we'll kind of get some feedback here from everybody. But for me, it looks like there's, in essence, three factors, right? Has the protocol or pool that you're in gone bad from a TVL or ROI perspective? Is the yield not looking as good as it used to? Has the emission that you're getting, or whatever the mechanism there, not yielding as much as it previously was? Or in most cases, because DeFi moves in a mile a minute, maybe you found something that provides better yield, better ROI over a shorter time horizon, or longer, depending on what you're at. Because, you know, depending on what mechanism you're in, for example, you know, you're in a fixed yield pool on Pendle, 55 days. You're probably not going to stay in it longer than 55 days, right? So that is timed, right? There are timed epoch style pools that are in that, you know, you do going to get out of after a time. Or if you're in there for the long haul, for example, like on an aerodrome or a velodrome pool, you'll be there for quite some time because there's going to be more and more incentives coming through as part of their flywheel. And then the third factor, I think, is really, are you just bored with your position? If you're looking to try new ways to find exposure to new technologies, new assets, that's the beauty of, you know, what happens here in DeFi is that not only are many things, there are innovations, but there are a lot of things that are copies of each other, right? So at any one time, you may find a very similar pool that could be very similar to the same mechanism of something you are already in, and just provides a better yield, and could after a certain amount of time. So now I know that boredom is not an investor strategy, but I'm just giving you exit strategies on why you may want to keep looking around. Would love to get any thoughts from you guys as to what factors do you know it's time to get out of a position? Let's start with you, Shylo.
Yeah, I think if the APY is really high, don't get in at all. Like, I mean, if you're seeing something like 1,000%, that's not sustainable. Like, especially if you have to lock, and if you feel you must take a risk, jump in and jump out. Of course, none of this financial advice, right?
Of
But
course.
if it seems too good to be true, it almost likely is. I mean, sure, we've all done it. I've done it, and lost a shirt or gained two shirts. It is essentially gambling at that point. So uh, I think if you're in some more blue chip assets, I don't think that there is a right answer, right? I mean, there is the old saying that you haven't lost it until you sell or you come out of a position, right? So, like, you can do a few things to mitigate loss and protect against that. Like, for example, if we look at like V3 strategies, you have an increased way to provide a range in which you're providing liquidity so that your impermanent loss doesn't, overtake your potential liquidity. So, provision. So, I think at that point it becomes being able to actively manage your position so that you can make sure it's within the guideposts of price where it is, and making sure you're not getting that loss, or if you are, that you're comfortable with it, or as comfortable as you can be with loss. But there's no real way to fully avoid risk, especially if somebody, a token rugs or goes under, or some bad news comes out. We really just don't know, and a lot of it is just, you know, we're winging it, and trade analysis and stuff is great, but like we don't know. I mean, I suck at trading. I'm the worst person to take advice. I don't
I'm
do
not
it.
a trader either.
No.
Andrew, any thoughts from you, sir, on exit strategies?
Can you bring back up the actual specific question, Chris?
Yeah, of course. It's very
when
simply.
do you know that it's time to get out?
Yep.
So I think it really depends on why you got in. I know, not to be too mind-blowing, but if you got into a position where it was like, okay, this is a stablecoin farm, the stablecoins probably haven't changed in value unless you picked really bad stablecoins. So the unstable coins, if you will. So the reason why you would get out is because there's a better opportunity, because those yields have gone down and there's something else somewhere else for those assets that's better. That's simple. It's also fairly simple when you're looking at long holding assets. So for instance, you're staking your ETH, or you're getting some pendle yields or something like that. Then that's going to be very similar to the stable coins. You're not looking at changing the assets. I think where this gets tricky, or where this is actually like more than just because it's time to rotate your positions to something better, is when you're looking at more complex or higher risk strategies. And then the matter is, because you're no longer comfortable with the risk, or because you're taking profits on that high risk position. So maybe an example I can use here is I've been long farming Arrow USDC on Extra Finance on base since Arrow was at about 62 cents. So I've gone up, I've gone down a bit, I'm still up, and I'm earning yield along the way. But the reasons I would get out would be because I don't think Arrow's ever going to go any higher. But I do think that there's a good chance that Arrow goes much higher as the cycle develops. So I'm going to stay in that position unless there's a better opportunity for me to long farm Arrow. And I may even add more to that allocation, depending. But that's, that's the analysis on that position. Do I still want exposure to Arrow? Arrow goes way up, well, then I may downsize that position. I may take some profits. But generally, I'm going to stay in that position so long as I think we haven't seen the highs on Arrow yet. So it's very dependent on the reason you got into it, whether it's high risk or low risk, whether it's assets that you want to have exposure to at any price, or whether you only want to have exposure to them when you're projecting a certain price. But really, that should be something that you're establishing when you enter the position, not when you're scared because the asset prices are moving and you're like, ooh, should I get out or not? Like, you want to have that plan before you get in to kind of remove the emotionality from it.
It's a great answer, Andrew. And again, reinforces a lot of what, we talk about when we educate and guide people. You want to have a plan, right? You want to have a plan. You want to journal your positions. You want to track your positions using a dashboard. And your plan needs to have both your expected outcome and a time horizon outcome. And as long as you're within that plan, I don't see any reason to get out of that position unless a better position comes along that trumps that position. Because you could be, there are people who have been on ETH mainnet for years in positions, right? Because they believe in a project, they know it's going to be be a good printer for them for a very long time to come. And that's why I think a lot of people do stick with ETH mainnet, because there is, not there isn't volatility, but the stability is there for a lot of positions and have been for a very long time. Outside of that, it's all about how you believe in a position when you get in, as Andrew said, to figure out the best way to get out, because you do have to make sure that the numbers that you're seeing on those, when you do your harvesting, matches what you are expecting. Because let's be honest here, UIs can lie. If you're not getting the exact numbers that you are expecting, and again, we're all here to make money, right? Then it's time to find a better position, because there are multiple positions out there that can help you make money. Some are more stable than others, but that's up to you and your research to figure that out. But the main part is create a plan, stick to it. If you reach markers in that plan that give you either an idea to either get out or take profit, follow those. Be disciplined. Treat this like a business. Simple. All right. And that was Call for Help. Thanks so much for being here today, Shylo. In our panel era, we're going to have a rotation of guests moving forward with some of the best personalities in all of DeFi here. I'm looking forward to having Shylo being a regular rotating panelist here. Thanks again for the analysis. Stick around for a second while we say our goodbye. Andrew, anything you want to mention before we head home?
I was trying to find some joke to make about Bitcoin L2s, and I'm not finding one. But excited for the first Bitcoin L3.
Oh, there we go. Bitcoin L3s building on top of Bitcoin L2s. A true exhibit. Yo, dog, I heard you like Bitcoin, so I'm going to build some Bitcoin on your Bitcoin, right? There is actually.
I want wrapped ETH on the Bitcoin L3.
We want an entire wrapped blockchain on another blockchain.
Exactly. Where everything is denominated in an over collateralized stable coin from Bitcoin, from wrapped Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, and it's and like Bitcoin's entire chain is wrapped into Ethereum.
Yeah.
Why not?
But and wouldn't it be crazy, because Bitcoin currently has 10-minute block times? If they continued that path on this L2 and you had 10-minute block times for finality, oh, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. I wonder if
I did want to mention, if you're in our TVL group, Andrew has a webinar tomorrow that you guys should definitely check out. It's not often we get Andrew on the webinar, so do please attend and get to see the wise words of Andrew the man. He's our guy.
We're going to be talking about some positions that Shylo would probably think are too high risk and a bad idea. We're going to be talking about meme coin LPs. So wait for an announcement post regarding that on the TVL school group, or just mark your calendar for what is it, Chris? 4 p.m.
Thursdays
Eastern
at
tomorrow?
4 p.m. Eastern. Yep, Thursday at 4 p.m. That's when we have our Beat the Banks trainings.
Cheers.
Awesome. I really appreciate you guys having me, by the way. Always a great pleasure to come on. I look forward to being back. Yeah, it's great to be included.
Feel free to plug whatever you want, Shylo. Go ahead. It's your time, sir.
Great to hang out with you, sir. It's fun meeting you at the ZK house, or for the ZKM house, or whatever it was called. The hang out at.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. Yeah, no. I guess the regular pitch here is check out Project Ralph at ralphthemoose.com. Join our Telegram, start participating, get some airdrops, and sign up for the on the wait list there. Get minting when we launch on Avalanche, and feel free to come say hi to the Elk team and the Project Ralph team at ETH Berlin. We're going to be there from May 23rd. We're having an event hosted by Q Blockchain, one of the chains we're on, a great partner. They are having that whole event set up, so check us out at ETH Berlin. Come pay us a visit and shake hands, meet in person, and get some tokens and stuff. Why not? I really appreciate you guys having me. So thanks so much.
Yeah, we did that at Denver. So get on the list. It's awesome. So thanks for joining us. 07, everybody. Stick around for a second, Shylo. We'll see you next time here on the TVL Show.